Okay, well, we have Dr. Dana Kere, who's still with us in the studio. Also joined by a lawyer and political analyst, Ahmed Abbas. And of course, joining us from Abuja studio is Senator Shehu Sani. Good morning, gentlemen, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
Let's begin. Of course, it will only be normal to begin with Senator Shehu Sani representing Kaduna Central. Senator, good to have you on the show this morning. Many Nigerians have been asking endless questions. We don't even know where to begin right now. But really, tell us about how it was possible for a senator who was on suspension to be part of a plenary going on the floor of the Senate that led to this drama.
Thank you for having me. Well, first of all, the event yesterday began with the invasion of the Senate by some armed thugs. And their forceful entrance into the Senate led to a number of things. One was that some of our staffs were injured and then the mace was taken away. Now, that is a clear breach, an affront on democracy, and an assault on our freedom and a democratic institution of that. It's also very clear to us that if that is not being taken care of, if the culprits are not brought to book, there may certainly be a repetition of what we have seen yesterday. The senator in question, there is no doubt about it, he led the armed thugs to the chamber of the Senate. And they took the mace and went away, and he took his seat. Now, if such a violation is allowed, one day it will graduate to the presidency. And what we insisted as a Senate was that we must remain and there should be an alternate mace, and it was brought in, and then we continue with our plenary. But before then, I offered to give my own belt for the very fact that we have to sit and we can't be intimidated or be ejected from the chamber because of some armed thugs. But to us, very clearly, that is a scripted drama.
Let me quickly ask you about that belt. That belt, yes.
Apologies, Senator. We need to get some clarification now because because of what you tweeted it yesterday as well, that you offered the Senate your belt so that they could continue plenary. Tell us first off, is there a house rule that what is required is just anything symbolic for plenary to take place?
Well, what I offered was simply a symbolic that no one should be intimidated and no one should go out of the Senate simply because some armed thugs came in to take the law into their hands. But eventually, an alternative mace was brought in, and then we continue with our plenary.
And that alternative mace, where did it come from? It's a question that people are still asking. Is it normal that the Senate has 2 or even more maces? Is that what's going on? How did this other mace show up, and from where?
Well, the new mace was brought in by the sergeant at arms, and they said they have a spare mace, and then they brought in, and then we continue with our plenary. The whole invasion was aimed at simply shutting down the Senate. And when we sat down, there were senators who said we should shut down the Senate till the next day, but I said we shouldn't go anywhere. There were speculations that there were bombs and things were planted here and there, and the security is not that suitable for us to be there. What I said clearly is that we should stay there, even if everyone is going to be shot. Well, that is why we are representative of the people. We should be ready to offer ourselves. If such an institution of democracy could be invaded as such, it is equivalent to rolling a tank to to take over a government as possible. That is treasonable.
All right, gentlemen, okay. Studio, I'm sure you'd want to respond or react to some of the issues we have raised with the senator. Still remain with us, Senator Shehu Sani, as we bring it to the studio. Ahmed Abbas, let's begin with you. What are the, you're a lawyer. I'm sure you would have a better understanding of the legal implications of what went on at the very heart of Nigeria's democracy, which is the legislature. And the appearance of another mace after the first one, the original one, was taken away.
Thank you. Like the senator said, what transpired was nothing but an assault on an institution of state. And I am of the firm opinion that the police has invited the senator for investigation, and I'm sure at the end of the investigation we should be able to know where we are going. Because whatever you are saying now, they are mere speculations until the outcome of the investigation.
Oh, okay.
So we wait for that investigation to know where we are heading to.
As a
but
lawyer,
it's an assault, yeah.
Okay, as a lawyer, I want clarity first, because the Senator Omo-Agege said that he only acted on legal advice, and that was why he appeared at the Senate yesterday. So tell us, and Dr. Ekere even said it earlier, and some have even said it yesterday, that even before when he was suspended, that the National Assembly doesn't even have the legal power to suspend a lawmaker. First off, is that true, or the National Assembly is backed by law to suspend a member?
Let me even go a little bit down, because you see the entire unfolding drama actually has a foundation. And what precipitated this whole drama was the issue of suspension. And you want to ask yourself, what is the basis? A man expressed an opinion in the hollow chambers of the Senate that the amendment to the electoral law were targeting the president. It's his personal opinion. And if you do not give room for dissenting opinion in any environment, you are simply taking away the constitutional right of freedom of expression. Even in the judiciary, judges are allowed to give their dissenting judgment. The Court of Appeal could have 5 justices, and 4 would align with the lead judgment, and one particular judge or justice, one of them, could give his own dissenting judgment that I disagree. But the
Senator Omo-Agege is a known member of Parliamentary support group for Buhari.
Yes.
So he has identified himself as a pro-Buhari senator.
Yes.
And coming out to make that statement on the floor of the House,
yes,
which was somehow casted aspersion on the integrity of all members of the House.
Yes.
You thought that wasn't out of place?
There's freedom of association. Even within political parties, you have different groups, mandate group, liberty group.
And not freedom of speech carried too far. Dr. Danekere, it is clear that Omo-Agege belongs to the Buhari camp. Now he has come out to say, I'm not behind the invasion of the Senate or the stealing of the mace, right? And he's going to make an official statement as time goes on. How do you think this episode is going to pan out, considering the fact that he belongs to Buhari's camp?
Thank you. To start with, before now, the Senate has been what people address as a hallowed chamber. But as at yesterday, or from yesterday, it became a hollowed chamber because it could be invaded by anybody and anything can happen. Now, but we need to look at it from that background that, you know, my friend here had just painted, that somebody expressed an opinion, and on the basis of that, he was suspended. We equally made to understand that he was not the only one that told that line. So there were others. Now, the challenge with what we have just seen is that it makes you know, the entire National Assembly, you know, it shows how porous it is with respect to security. Okay, now, as we speak, the National Assembly, let me be specific now, the Senate has just shown, or has over time, particularly since this Senator Bukola Saraki's leadership, that it is a body established by law, but does not respect law and wants to make laws. Okay? Now, it is often said that two wrongs don't make a right. It is not expected that two wrongs should make a right. Two wrongs are reactionary. You know, one wrong reacts to the other wrong. Two rights should make more rights. A wrong will always necessitate a wrong. So I wasn't expecting that the Senate should go lawless and you expect that Omo-Agege will go lawful. No, it's not done. You know, so if you have created a background for lawlessness to thrive, obviously what you reap is lawlessness. That's what has just happened. Okay. But in any case, Omo-Agege was elected by a senatorial district. And are you telling me, interestingly, it's even one of the, you know, places from where the funds with which we run this country come. And you are telling me that such a man should stay at home. It's not the man you are punishing. It's this entire senatorial district. Don't they have a right to have a say in Nigeria? And I think that is what precipitated the entire saga we are now witnessing. So this theater of the absurd that we have just seen was actually, you know, in a way, produced or prepared by the Senate itself. You cannot do what you had done and expect something better. All
right, Senator Shehu, let's come back to you now. I'm sure you heard what some of our spokespersons in the studio already said. Senator Omo-Agege is a pro-Buhari senator, and the group he belonged to, the Parliamentary Support Group for Buhari, was disbanded about 7 days ago by the Senate. Is the Senate not even contravening the law by disbanding a group first off? Is there no freedom of association?
Well, first of all, I will be the last person to support anything that will be done for anyone simply for expressing his opinion. But I don't think that anybody should justify what happened yesterday because a senator was suspended. Will you say now that because the government is holding the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria against a court order, so one of their members should simply scale the fence, go into the villa and attack the president, and then you justify it that why should they be holding the leader against what the court said? You don't do that. If you are endorsing what happened to the Senate because you don't like Bukola Saraki, one day it will happen to a Senate president that you like, or to a Senate that is popular. What I said was that the violation that happened yesterday was not simply against the senators. It is against an institution, a democratic institution. And if the senator said he was not responsible for that, then it means that all the cameras, including that of the TVC and all those ones, that I've seen that person coming in with those people are telling lies. So as far as we are concerned, a democratic institution has been violated and we have been invaded, and it was an attempt to simply close down the Senate, and in the process many people were injured. There was even an attempt to kidnap 2 of our senators. Now people should understand that the 8th Senate will go and there will be 9, 10, 20th Senate in the future, and how whatever you say about what happened today will be tallied with what you will say if similar things happen in the future to a Senate that you like, or to a leadership, not Saraki. What happened yesterday, simply because a senator was suspended. If I'm suspended from the Senate, I'm not afraid of that. I express my opinion. I don't think that I will lead thugs, armed thugs, to come and start beating people to take over the mess. That is simply wrong.
Okay, now let me stay with you. In the follow-up to this invasion of the Senate, your colleagues and yourself decided to put on hold, or at least suspend further action on the bill to reorder the election. And you say that the heart of democracy has been attacked with this invasion at the Senate. Would you say that you're dropping this particular bill, it just means that those who don't want the reordering of the bill or the election, people like Omo-Agege have had their way.
Well, what I will tell you is that if there is a bill you feel strongly about or you are opposed to, all you need to do is to reach out to the senators, one by one. Even as a senator now, if I have a motion, if I have a bill, and I want to scale through, I go to the senators room by room and explain to them and try to convince them to key into this. Now, if the Senator Omo-Agege's group, who call themselves pro-Buhari, don't want the reordering of the sequence, all they need to do is to reach out to senators and then convince them that it is wrong. For example, yesterday, there was the lead debate on the reordering of the Senate, of the sequence of election. As a member of the Senate Committee on INEC, I didn't know what that decision was taken, and I was opposed to it. And many senators stood against it. So if you can achieve things without necessarily using violence, why do you need to use violence? Which court order? You say it's acting on court order. Which court order will give you the permission to come in and take the mace and take it out? So as far as I'm concerned, this parliamentary support group could have achieved better by reaching out to mobilizing support against the sequence of the election. As far as I'm concerned, that is an unnecessary diversion. It has caused so much tension and division within the Senate, and we should do away with it, and yesterday we stepped it down. But the fact was that it doesn't have to lead to this point, and there should be no justification for what was done yesterday, even if you don't like Saraki or you don't like the 8th Senate.
Now, are you suspicious in any way or even afraid that Senator Omo-Agege, who is suspected to have led those thugs into the Red Chamber, might not be the only one, if so, if he actually did it, to have orchestrated what happened yesterday?
Well, if he was the only one, it would have been very difficult for him to do that. Try getting into the National Assembly as an individual. You will see how the security right from the gate will try to interrogate you, take over your phone, search you, and then you move there. But what we witnessed yesterday was simply invaders coming in and security giving them way. They moved into the chamber, took the mace, come and enter their vehicle and simply move out. So to me, that is simply a drama that was well scripted, and it's not something that simply happened just like that. It's not possible for anyone to simply come into the National Assembly and the chamber of the Senate without the collaboration with the members of the security forces who are there. So I believe that there is more to this than what we have seen.
And I wonder what you think it is. The APC says it's an attack on democracy, Nigeria's democracy. Of course, you have used the same expression. What do you think are the chances of Nigeria's democracy surviving? Because it looks like the political class has demonstrated lack of maturity in handling its issues, and then the legislature, which is the heart of democracy, seems to have lost it. What is the way forward?
Well, if there is any unique quality of this Ed Senate which should attract praises from the general public, is the fact that we are not a rubber stamp parliament, as you had in the past. If you don't have an independent parliament that will hold the executive to account and perform its oversight function diligently, then all you will have is tyranny. The parliament is the brick against one man in power trying to impose his will and wishes on everyone. So if the institution of the parliament is desecrated and invaded as such, then the whole democracy is in danger. So the very fact that we stayed behind to defend democracy, it is in the interest of all Nigerians that we do that, and there is no alternative to that. No matter how bad our problems are, democracy is still the best option for us, and we still have to do everything possible to defend it.
So what now happens to Senator Omo-Agege? According to the House rules, what's next for him? Because he's on suspension and he was even able to enter the Senate chambers yesterday. It seems he's more powerful than the entire members of the Senate put together.
Well, even if you now, as a presenter, you have the backing he has, and the security will give you way, and you simply can go and do what you want to do. We don't have an independent security network. The National Assembly is protected by the police, the DSS, and the security system that is controlled by the executive arm of the state. And if we have our own security network and system, certainly that could have been very impossible for it to happen. But I believe that what happened yesterday will lead to a lot of debates, and also what can be done to improve the situation and avert the repetition of what happened in the past. The parliament is the most open arm of government. As people troop into the Senate, National Assembly, you don't see them in the executive arm, you don't see them in the judiciary. But we can't stop people from coming in, but we have to do what we can to protect the institution in respect to what happened yesterday. But as for the future of the senator, I believe it is the National Assembly, the Senate itself, that will take an action on it. And as a person, I believe one who talks a lot, like myself, I will not subscribe to someone being punished for what he says. But if you look at the precedent of what happened, was that he said something, and then he apologized, and then he went to court. Then he was suspended pending the time that he dropped his case in court. That was simply the issue. And there were other senators who were suspended, but they were back to the Senate. But there should be no justification for anyone taking the law into its hands, because if today you have a sinner who is Saraki, you may have a Senate as a Senate president in the future, and similar things will happen to him. And I don't know what you will say, because certainly there is no man who doesn't have an enemy.
Absolutely. All right. Senator Shehu Sani still remain with us in our Abuja studio. Let's bring it to the studio right here in Lagos. The Senate and different other people have actually described this as a treasonable offense. To the question of what happens to Omo-Agege if indeed this, after it's investigated, it's found to be treason, what then? What then?
It's within the purview of the Nigerian police to investigate criminal offenses, and then if it's found them culpable, they would prosecute him.
Okay, and you want to speak to the issue he raised there,
yes,
about defending democracy. He said the 8th Assembly is not a rubber stamp. They have done well to demonstrate that fact.
I want to raise some issues.
Yes.
Number one, Senator Shehu Sani is one of the senators I respect so much, because he speaks independently. I want him to also realize I'm not sitting here, and I will never sit here to hold an opinion supporting violence in whatever form. I will never believe that violence can be used to achieve anything within a democratic setting. So I want to make that point clear. That's one. Two, this 8th Senate has demonstrated on several occasions lack of capacity to accommodate dissenting opinion among its members. Most times, once a member expresses a dissenting opinion, the next thing the Senate does is to suspend that. You are not giving room for people to give expression to their thoughts.
And we are in a democratic setting.
In a democratic setting. I could dissent. If you feel the majorities will always have their way, but also allow the minority to have their say. Now, interrogate Bukola Saraki's statement. He said that the reason why we suspended Omo-Agege is that he went to the court. What's wrong in a man going to court over an issue that he believes the court should resolve? Is there any crime?
After he had apologized for his conduct or for whatever his position was in the Senate.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
You see, in human relationships, if I have an altercation, I make a statement, and you feel very strongly, I could, for purpose of peace, say, okay, if my statement has embarrassed you in whatever way, I'm sorry. It may not take away the fact that I feel very strongly about the issue, and that being a civilized person, I intend to bring it before the court as an arbiter. There is nothing wrong in that. Compelling a man to say because he has gone to court, you are going to suspend him from the hollow chambers, that he was elected to represent his people, I think it's taking whatever be the disciplinary measure of the Senate too far. Why do you compel a man who has adopted a civilized approach to resolving an issue? For me, I mean, a man expressed an opinion, and for that you are suspending him. It shows high-handedness.
Okay.
Because ultimately what you will do is simply that you are going to have senators who are robots. Once they read the body language of the Senate president or the vast majority, that this is where the line we are towing. Look.
And interestingly, that seems to be what the 8th National Assembly has been trying not to be towards the executive for so long. Now, Doctor, earlier you heard the Senator Shosani, saying that the National Assembly doesn't have its own security details, so it still depends on the central security. Yeah. And it brings to heart again the talk about having state police and all that. And then there were talks of how Senator Omo-Agege was arrested, when some Nigerians are saying that he wasn't even arrested, he was eased into a vehicle, meaning that there are laws for some section of Nigerians. So again, if the Senate had its own security detail or Abuja police somehow in charge, would that have happened?
Well, first, I do not think state police would have solved this problem, because it wasn't an Abuja issue to start with. So I don't see how an Abuja police would have been able to deal with it separately. Then I equally want to put it on record that I am not in support of the maize being stolen or being snatched away. But I don't equally believe people have a different impression about violence. Violence resolves issues sometimes, because there are times violence will propel negotiation. You know, where you make all moves and the other parties are not, willing to even give it a thought. Sometimes violence brings the parties to the table. Look at the issue of the Niger Delta, for instance. Were it not for militancy, I doubt if the government would have been reasonable enough to even consider the fact that these people are actually being dehumanized. So sometimes violence could be a step towards achieving something. But that's not even the issue. On this particular issue,
on TV, should that ever be an option, really? Because we hear the saying that those
you can't take it from
violent change inevitable. But is it the right, action?
Humans are not always meant to take the right actions. So when you say, is it the right action? It's like saying that once you are a human being, you will always take the right action. It doesn't follow. I'm not saying that is a lawful option. On this particular issue, I am not saying that I support violence. But I'm equally saying that just as you don't seem to respect this particular action, the law that established the National Assembly should be followed. The situation where an institution that is established by law choose to violate the same laws, choose to override the same law, means that they have created enough room, enough ambience for what has transpired. I'm not supporting that. But I think that the National Assembly should learn to accommodate, opinions. That is what is what the people Omo-Agege is representing are not the people that Senator Bukola is representing. They are not the people Shosani is representing. We have different interests, so you will always find diversionary interests.
Well, but you wonder whether his stance,
we must walk in line with the law.
That stance over the order of the election is a representation of his constituency.
That could be the opinion of his constituency.
But let's
that
go
we
to,
want this order.
Let's take it to Shehu Sani, Senator Shehu Sani there in Abuja. Senator Shehu Sani, I know that you're a man who cherishes freedom of speech, freedom of association and all of that, but the legislature is a body that is meant to make laws for the good of the people, for good governance and all of that. And yet within the Red Chamber, the National Assembly, you have different groups, just like the one that Omo-Agege belongs to. Is it not an anomaly that politics is being played on the floor of the National Assembly? Should it continue?
Well, the Senator Omo-Agege's group formed what they call Parliamentary Support Group. And in their own, while thinking that they are pro-Buhari and all of us were anti-Buhari. Well, for me, I'm neither pro anybody nor anti anybody. And if it requires me to express my opinion, I can express my opinion even against my own party. But we should understand that even in some of our parties, especially the one I belong to, there's a clause where it says clearly that if you go to court, you can be expelled from the party. And that is supposed to be a democratic institution. So as far as the National Assembly is concerned, there should be no one who is to be persecuted for expressing a divergent opinion. But if you go out of the chamber and portray us as being anti-Buhari and you are pro-Buhari, well, I don't care whether you call me pro or anti. In fact, I would prefer to be called anti as far as I'm concerned, because in every possible way, I don't want to be seen anything restraining my ability to express myself. But I believe that people should not in any way justify what happened yesterday. Because you will be legitimizing further actions of this kind. And not only against the National Assembly, but even against the presidency itself. Many things are happening wrong in this country. If you take the IPOB issue, if you take the Islamic movement issue, if you take so many issues, and is it because of all those things now that are going wrong and then you do something wrong to justify it? We can't move as a nation with such kind of thing. So as far as the National Assembly is concerned, no one should be persecuted for expressing his opinion. And for me, when I speak, I am ready for anything, even including suspension. And I don't think if I'm suspended from National Assembly today, I will go to Kaduna and bring thugs to come and take the maize. But certainly, I will continue to speak even outside.
Yeah, I do understand that, but my question is
the most I can do.
Yeah, my point is the different groups in the National Assembly, beyond the standing committees and the rest of them, is that something that should be allowed to continue? Because it seems to be detracting from the purpose of the legislature.
Well, if you can recall back, before the election of Saraki as the Senate President, there were two main groups in the Senate, and there is the Like Minds, led by Saraki, and there is a Unity Forum led by Ahmed Lawan. Then we all met and decided that the existence of this group create a lot of problems and infractions and also diversions. So we resolved that all these groups should dissolve themselves. And the groups decided to dissolve themselves. Then suddenly on the election sequence, you have a parliamentary support group that goes out not only providing support of the parliament to the executive, but also portraying us in bad light as we are anti-president. So that is where the issue comes. And there are many senators here. If you are being portrayed as anti-president or anti-Buhari, you'll be stoned in your constituency. Because it has reached a point now, whatever you do or say, as long as is contrary to what the executive arm of the government wants you to say, then you become an anti-Buhari or anti-presidency. So in that kind of an atmosphere, people see that as an attempt to incite the populace against them. And,
Senator.
And then they said there should be no more any group.
Isn't that a clear case of the pot calling kettle black? Saying that the lawmakers are going out because they are saying something. Once you say something against the executive, then you are anti-Buhari. Whereas lawmakers, whenever they say something against the position of the assembly, they are punished as well.
As far as I'm concerned, whatever you see in the National Assembly, if it is expressing a different opinion, that is okay. If you say that I am against the sequence of election, that is fine. But now when you say that those people who are for sequence of election are against Buhari, what do you think an ordinary person in Sokoto, in Kano, in Katsina, in Kaduna, in Maiduguri will say about it? So as far as I'm concerned, what they did was trying to incite the populace against us. I don't mind me trying to give me a tag for what I said. After all, I can speak out against any person. And I'm ready to take the consequences because that is my history.
Yes, of course,
but,
you have demonstrated that.
Itself, I should not punish people.
Definitely, you've demonstrated that over and over again. We're going to bring it back to the studio, but let me just quickly throw this in before I forget. You've been quoted, Senator Shehu Sani, as saying anyone who belongs to the APC is pro-Buhari, and there's nothing wrong with that mindset. That, as a matter of fact, Buhari is the heart of the APC. That without Buhari, then everybody, it will be to your tents, or Israel. You want to clarify exactly what you mean by that?
Can you repeat that quote for me?
The point that, well, you were quoted as saying that anyone who belongs to the APC is pro-Buhari. And if Buhari is not within the scheme of things in the APC, then it will be back to your tents, or Israel.
Well, what I said is very clear, that if you are a member of the APC or represent the APC, certainly you are expected to provide support for the policies and programs of government. But not when things are wrong, because you are also not representing a party, but you are representing the people, and you are a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if the party decided to align itself with what is wrong, or the president did what is wrong, certainly your conscience should be your compass. That is what I believe. Your support for your party and your president should not extend to the point of supporting things that are wrong and untoward and unethical. That is my position.
Okay.
We can support the president, and I support him, but not to the point that when I see things that are wrong, for me to simply keep quiet and endorse it. Most of these people who sing his praises and say he is never wrong are sycophants. And I know one day Buhari will be in office and he will know who are his true friends and who are his... after all, there are people who say they can die for Obasanjo today. They are in the forefront of attacking him. There are people who were with Jonathan and he's out of power, and today they are after him. So when I see most of these, especially some of these are governors, every day going to the villa to sing the praises of Mr. President, massage his ego, tell him he's always right, I know it's a question of time. There will be a day he will be out of this presidency. He will go back to either his town or in Kaduna and sit down. He will on his TV and see what these people will say about him.
The cycle of life. Okay, we'll hold you on, Senator. Let's come to you now, Dr. First off. Now, the issue at the heart of this is the election sequence, and his supporters don't want the presidential election to be held last, and that is why so many things have been happening. But then you wonder, really, what are they afraid of?
Well, thank you. I think that's the major issue, really. And again, even INEC, what's the responsibility of INEC? is it, if INEC has no skeleton in its cupboard, why is it bothered about the sequence? After all, the Senate is not saying, it's not fixing dates of elections. Exactly. It's only talking about sequence. That shouldn't be a problem for INEC at all. INEC should focus on conducting elections in that sequence, but decide on the dates. Now, the fear is that if you come with the presidential election first, the tendency is that you find, this bandwagon effect, where everybody will want to go the same way with the president, because a lot of people are usually afraid of opposition. So the moment you start with that, you find this trend as if we are in a one-party system. So for me, I feel that it would have been better that the reorder of the sequence that the Senate is planning would have been better for us, such that let all the the various segments be settled. Then let's objectively decide on who should be our president. Not a question of, okay, we now have a president who is this, who from there. Maybe fear of body language or anything, people will just, cowardly follow that path.
The bandwagon effect.
I don't think that will all go well for this country. Yeah. And in any case, Shehu Sani has always been a very respected voice, and Tina still respect him as such because he has always spoken the mind of the people. But we must understand that the only reason why we respect the laws that are made by the National Assembly is because there's a law establishing it. So you cannot create, there's no way you beat a child and you say the child should not cry. That's exactly what the National Assembly is trying to do. So don't create a fertile ground for this kind of things to fester. We must ensure that we operate as a law-abiding body. Let's make laws that can govern this country reasonably, such that every segment of the economy will thrive and let everybody begin to enjoy an environment where he or she can express himself or herself. Okay,
let's quickly take it to Senator Shehu Sani before we let him go. On the issue of the reordering of the election, which is the core of this crisis, really, why should it matter, what the order of the election is, and why should anybody be bothered about whether they will be advantaged or disadvantaged if the sequence is the way it is or if it's changed? What does it say in itself?
Well, the supporters of the reordering of the sequence averred that the new order will make it possible for Nigerians to scrutinize and appraise every elections on its own. It is an intervention to stop the collective burial, collective conviction of candidates. What we had in the past is a situation whereby after the first election, it appears that it's simply a lost game for others. But the new sequence will make it possible for Nigerians to scrutinize which of their legislature has performed and they want him back. If you don't have such a system where you separate elections, you will continue to elect Mr. A because of Mr. B.
All right, Senator,
and that is very wrong. So as far as...
Okay, are you through? All right, Senator.
No, as far as we are concerned, the new order is to give Nigerians the opportunity to elect every office based on his own merit, without necessarily saying because the president has won, so every person who align himself or is under the president should also win.
Okay, so let's quickly get your reaction now about the Kaduna drama, where you have said that you've been framed up for murder and you're accusing the government as the brain behind it. What is your reaction?
Well, what actually happened was that the governor of Kaduna State ordered for the arrest of my aide and also one other person. That other person's name was called Issa Garba, a man that I have never met, I have never seen. He was taken to a military camp 5 kilometers outside of Kaduna, stripped naked and tortured with cables. He was detained there for more than 7 to 10 days. And the only way the military told him that he can get out of that torture is to implicate Sheikh Hussaini in a homicide case. And for him, and then after making a statement with them, now they took the audio to the Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State. And now the young man was charged to court. And when he went before the court, and even the statement he wrote between the police, he said that this is what the military did to him, and this is what they told him he should say. So how the governor of Kaduna State was linked to that plot was the fact that we got a letter he personally wrote to the Chief Justice of Kaduna State insisting that those persons should be prosecuted according to how he wanted, not according to what the law says. It is a script that was written, produced, and directed by Governor Nasir El-Rufai against my person to silence me and to stain me. He has regressed from being an elected civilian governor to a military administrator. He has used the army against the NLC. He has used the army to demolish the house of Senator Hunkwi, and he has now used the army to torture an innocent person. And we have all the facts. I have the video, I have the audio of the torture, we have the papers and the letters which was written by Nasir El-Rufai. The Commissioner of Police of Kaduna State sent a letter to me inviting me, but I am not going to go to any invitation based on a CD that was brought to him by an army that were extracted after a torture. If Nasir El-Rufai cannot face me politically, he shouldn't hide behind a framework, torturing people. Can you imagine the man that was tortured? A man was brought before him, shot, and said, if you don't implicate Sheikh Hussaini, we're going to kill you like the way we killed the person. We have all the proof with us. Okay. And a time is coming when we are going to bring these things out. All right, but I'm telling you in every possible way that these are all parts of the politics of Kaduna. And for Nasir El-Rufai, why don't you stay and face Sheikh Hussaini in 2019 polls? Why not? Why are you hiding behind framing Sheikh Hussaini in order to stain him? That will not be helpful to you. All right, we await that time when you will bring everything out. But according to El-Rufai, the governor of Kaduna State, the real issue, the crux of the matter is that you brought names of nominees for commissioner, and he, in his own wisdom, believed that they were not capable of handling such offices, especially when he had PhDs to appoint as commissioners. Does he has PhD? And the president he is supporting every day, does he have a PhD? Why doesn't he go and bring a university professor or chairman of ASU to support as a president of Nigeria? And how many PhD does he have in his own cabinet? And has PhD become, if PhD is the criteria to be a governor, will he have been a governor of a state? So please, come on. I think he should be more intelligent than that.
All right, Senator Sheikh Hussaini from Kaduna Central, thank you very much for your time on the show with us. All right, back to the studio. You need to take a breather. Yes, to take a breather. You know, to sing that in. Yes, indeed. But really, we're not going to. Let's just move back to the issue at hand, which is the desecration of Nigeria's democracy. 19 or so years after we came back to this civilian administration or civilian rule or democratic dispensation, you would have thought that we have gone very far, but it looks like we are back where we started with this incident that happened on the floor. That's why it's still called nascent democracy after close to 20 years. Ahmed Abbas.
Well, for me, I do not think we are back to where we started. Democracy is a journey. even in US, it's continuously evolving. And we must be able to isolate issues. First and foremost, when offenses are committed, there are laws to handle them. So we must isolate those issues. Someone desecrated the National Assembly. Let the institution saddle with the responsibility of conducting investigation into criminal act, conduct their investigation, and if anybody is found culpable, let them prosecute that person. That's all. The Senate is a house of debate. I was trying to make a point that look at the British Parliament. Even sometimes the Prime Minister will be making statements and they will be booing her. Ooh, ooh, ooh. How many people have you seen them sending out of the Parliament? Make your statement.
But when a senator of the Federal Republic comes out and says a decision made by his fellow senators is against the interest of a sitting president, doesn't that draw a line between pro-Buhari and anti-Buhari within the floor of the Nigerian Senate?
It's an opinion.
Is that not an anomaly in itself?
It's an opinion. You have apparatus, even you have committees within the Senate. He was talking about convincing other senators to toe their line. They also have the same
I don't think such statement could incite the public against those perceived to be anti-Buhari. Or even the president himself, you know, is able to say, okay,
I think
these people are against me, these are my people. And
such statement from
Omo-Agege. Let's look at it this way. Even in South Africa here, let's not go to Europe.
Too far.
You saw how on the floor of the Congress, Zuma himself was mesmerized. You saw how he was humiliated. You saw, you know, parliamentarians addressing Zuma as president of South Africa with such, you know, anger and even unfriendly words. There was no issue of suspension. There was never any issue of, okay, this one is against this, so we must do this. We must.
But there was a time that some lawmakers, EFF lawmakers, were bundled out of the parliament.
Exactly. No, you see, that was not. I'm talking about addressing the president himself. The man was on the floor, and there were opinions against him. People have a right to opinion. And in any case, when you say pro-Buharis and anti-Buharis, that when you kick against Buhari, then people will attack you. Yeah, that could happen in the north. But I'm saying that there are a lot of people who don't want to hear the name Buhari again. So saying that you are anti-Buhari will make some people equally receive you. So you must look at it from both ends. It's something that you have pros and you have antis.
Okay.
So it happens everywhere. But the most important thing is that a senator is not somebody who was elected to support the president. He was elected to make laws for the good governance of the country, and his constituency should be his primary interest.
All right. We have joining us from our Abuja studio at this time a former governor of Nasarawa State and the senator representing Nasarawa West constituency, Abdullahi Adamu. And of course, joining us via Skype from the UK is the CEO of Diaspora PR, Jermaine Sowolu. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. But let me first off come to you. Senator, we understand you are a member of the Parliamentary Support Group for Buhari. And from the reactions we've been getting since yesterday, some are saying that the action, or the perceived action of Senator Omo-Agege seems to be the clear case of the leaf dancing on the surface of water while its many drummers are below the surface of that water. What do you have to say about that?
Well, thank you very much for having me. You see, impunity breeds impunity, unfortunately. Distinguished Senator Omo-Agege, as a duly elected Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is a representative of the constituency that voted for him. And the Senate is guided by the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in terms of what we do, we have standing orders for whatever we do. And there's no denying the fact that Omo-Agege has, like any one of us, has a fundamental right to hold an opinion, which means he can agree, he can disagree with any issue that is in the public domain. Now, he, exercising his views, made it very clear that the way and manner a bill that was seeking to take, so to say, if you permit that expression, take away the authority to determine sequence and dates of election from INEC, which is constitutional vessel of that power. You know, he wasn't satisfied, like quite a number of us, and I'm one of them. I wasn't satisfied with, you know, the way and manner the bill was passed. Subsequent upon this, we expressed at the press gallery of the Senate, you know, our dissent on the way and manner the bill was passed. Somehow, some members of the Senate picked issues with the way he expressed himself, because that day we did express ourselves before the media people. And someone chose to take an aspect of his address, which is specifically referred to the fact that as far as he was concerned, we were concerned, the bill seemed to be aimed at, you know, the presidency, President Muhammadu Buhari. And when this issue was raised in the Senate the day following, after the incidents, he, as a gentleman, the senator, said, well, if that was not his intention, but if that is how his statement was construed, he apologized most sincerely to the Senate and to his colleagues. And everybody thought that would just be the end of it. But that was not to be. In the end, the matter was referred to the Ethics Committee, and the Ethics Committee, which has a membership of about 15 or so people, 16 people, 16 senators, 14 of which, you know, were PDP, or are still PDP senators, you know, found him guilty. He was
okay.
Senator
Abdullahi,
fair here in the sense that he was allowed to defend himself.
Yes. If I may come in very
Hello,
quickly.
I can hear you.
Yes, let me come in very quickly because of want of time. Where do you stand, really? Do you believe that if the Senate had had its way in reordering the election timetable, that it would have worked against President Buhari? Or why do you think it really matters, the order of this election?
It really matters for me. As far as I'm concerned, it's not an issue whether it is not a matter of whether it will hurt the interests of President Muhammadu Buhari. The fact is, we have procedure for passing any bill or any motion before the Senate. And as far as we were concerned the day we addressed the press, these procedures were not strictly adhered to. For instance, where you are having a debate, you raise an issue that was fundamentally a constitutional issue, which I did, and all that the Senate President said to me and from his exalted seat was noted. This was a constitutional issue. Once a constitutional issue was raised, you wait and give it a chance to be heard. I can be defeated. The idea may be defeated, but it didn't discuss it. Then, no sooner after that, you know, distinguished Senator Omo-Agege raised an issue, provision from our standing orders. He did not, because the President of the Senate sought to pass the bill through voice vote. Because he wasn't satisfied, there is provision, quoting specific provisions of the standing order, I want a division. And once a division is sought in Parliament, you stop everything and ensure there is a division. So I find everybody who is there can cast a vote as to his position on either way. But he refused it. He didn't even have the courtesy of responding at all. He just ignored it and turned the other way.
Yeah, and that was why earlier you said impunity breeds impunity. But then, does that justify yesterday's action?
There was no due process in passing that bill at the time.
But does it justify what happened yesterday on the floor of the Senate?
Beg your pardon?
What happened? Was it
Beg
enough?
your pardon?
Senator, can you hear me? From what you just told us, would you say that
I
that
can hear
was
you now, yeah?
okay? Would you say that was enough reason for what happened yesterday to happen?
Well, for me, it's not quite in my place right now to say to you, yes, because of what happened, whether what happened yesterday was justified or not justified. The fact of the matter is, distinguished Senator Omo-Agege, is a member of the Senate, is a senator, and the Constitution and the standing orders are very clear as to the issue of suspending any member of the Senate. And I share the belief that there is no provision in the Constitution or our standing orders that allows the Senate to suspend its member for as much as 90 days or 181 days as is being purported to be done. There are authorities, legal authorities. There's the cases of Decision Center in Dume. There's a case of Dino Malay, our colleague, who have gone through similar experiences, and there have been court pronouncements on this. And it's clear that the powers that be in the Senate are turning deaf ears at that, and ignoring the position of the law.
All right. Are you happy now that that debate over that bill has been suspended, the bill on the reordering of the election? Are you happy that it has been dropped, more or less?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, yesterday, it depends on what we see today when we get to the Senate. Yesterday, after the issue of our colleague wanting to come to assert his constitutional right as a senator, at the end of it all, we went on with the business of the day, and there were two bills, which was a modification of the original one that is in contention. The bill that the president, vetoed, they've split into two, and tried to separate the elections once again in some other way. But as far as I'm concerned, if the bills are passed as they are, it's just given with the left and taken from given with the right and taken with the left, just two sides of the same coin. But yesterday, that effort was defeated. It was clearly defeated, and instead of the presiding officer, distinguished Senator Ikwedemadu, instead of putting the question, when everybody asked for the question, he decided not to put the question, but decided to send the bill back to the committee. Incidentally, very interestingly, the members of the committee, one after the other, on the floor of the hallowed chamber, denied, disassociated themselves with what was presented. Senator Nadif, who is the chairman of the NA committee, everybody disowned the bill as presented to the Senate. They said it was not their work. It was the work of an individual as the chairman of their committee, Senator Nadif.
All right, Senator Abdullahi Adamu.
We wait to see what the records show, because...
Okay, let's put you very quickly on hold. We'll still allow you to we'll allow you to give us your thoughts, but let's go to London, where Jermaine Sanwo-Olu is standing by to give us his views. Good morning, good to see you, Jermaine. What are your thoughts about the developments yesterday in Nigeria's hallowed chambers, which our guest has described as hollow?
Hollow chamber, hollow chamber. We really do hope and wish that people in Nigeria and also will see that hallowed chamber as something of pride, something that Nigerians actually respect. Because what happened yesterday, as the Senate spokesman, Senator Abdullahi, said, was an act of treason. But I also see it as an act of terrorism. Now, I use that word very cautiously because terrorism is defined as the unlawful use of violence or intimidation against civilians with political aims. Now, look at what happened. Everything fits the definition of an act of terror against people. Last year, we saw something like this happen in the United Kingdom, whereby someone actually went to the area of Parliament and struck some people down there with a car, and they came out with knives and all that. But here what we are seeing is blows, chairs. These are things that could be used as weapons to intimidate senators, and all for political aims. And what we see right now is that most of those constitutional amendments that were meant to be put in place have been dropped. They have been intimidated through the use of violence. That's why I see it as an act of terrorism and it must be taken as such. Just a few days ago, what happened was that the Senate actually accused the service chiefs and said, you know what, and they should all be sacked. And all of a sudden, we see a security breach in the Senate, whereby it seems everybody just hands down from the main gate. I've been to the House before and the Senate before. The main gate, they allow them to come in. After that, they also allow them to come into the gate accessing the Senate. And even there's so much screening there. But these men, hoodlums, how did they get access? Were they escorted by someone? We have to look at these things because this is an attack on our democracy, and we must not be cowards. We must rise up and say those bills that needed to be passed will be passed, and we must stand up for democracy and not be intimidated by such acts of treason and also terror as I defined earlier.
All right, we'll come back to you, Jermaine, in just a moment. Let me come to you now, Senator Abdullahi. We spoke with Senator Shehu Sani earlier, and paraphrasing his statement is saying that apart from the purpose of that action yesterday, that is also an attack on the leadership of Senate President Bukola Saraki. What do you have to say?
I'm not aware of such a threat.
You're not aware of such a threat, but we hear that there are many divisions in the Senate.
No, I'm not aware that anybody is threatened.
But we understand there are divisions in the Senate, some pro, some anti. And for example, the pro-Buhari support group, a member, Senator Omo-Agege, stood and somehow was said to have insulted other members that were against the president. And then you wonder, really, are other senators, do they not have the same right as pro-Buhari senators to hold their own opinions?
One thing I find very interesting is sometimes the way things are interpreted, sometimes the kind of insinuations you have over actions, amaze me. The fact of the matter is, whether you're talking of Omo-Agege or Abdullahi Adamu or the Senator Saraki, or anybody for that matter, Bukola Saraki, as far as we are concerned, I said in the beginning of this program, you have an inherent right to hold our opinion. Whether somebody likes Senate President Saraki or not, the fact of the matter is he is the president of the Senate. And he knows, he will testify to the fact that we respect him. I respect him. I have reason to believe Omo-Agege respects him. And I think we are old enough and we occupy positions that are high enough. If we hold any particular position in regard to whether we like or don't like Saraki, we express it. But this is not the issue of liking Saraki or not liking Saraki or having any disagreement with him. Not at all. When you must disagree between an individual and institution. When you pick issues with processes, you're not picking issues with an individual. You are picking issues with what an institution is supposed to do, and the institution may not have done it the right way or the way you perceive to be the right way. You have a right to say you may be wrong, you may be right, but that's a different category of issue altogether. You don't say because somebody supports, say President Muhammadu Buhari, he is therefore in disagreement with Saraki, because if you say so, you are saying in effect that Saraki does not support Buhari, and that would not be the correct thing to
that's
have.
Clear.
As far as we are concerned, for your information, I am a member of the Parliamentary Support Group. All right, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. The parliamentary system is known, there's lobby, There are people who are outside the parliament who can come and lobby over issues, labor unions, medical association, the industry, the banks. They come, they lobby. Within us, we levy issues of the promote your interests. You have Northern Senators Group, you have Southern Senators Group, you have South Senators Group, you have North Central Group. You have all manner of interest groups, very informal groups that operate in the Senate. And the Parliamentary Support Group is one of them. The Senate President himself that is on the seat today, there is no point giving a dog a bad name to hang it. It is because of these informal groups that before the inauguration or during the inauguration of the 8th Senate or the 8th National Assembly, he, acting out of his freedom, his fundamental right, he was elected on the platform of the APC. He had link. He developed an accord, an understanding with the PDP members of the Senate, and he got a number to elect him to be president. Nobody has challenged him until today on that. And,
okay, we do understand.
We do appreciate informal groups.
Yes, we do understand.
This is what gave birth to his leadership, and he cannot today turn around and get people to say, "Oh no, they are against parliamentary support group." These are lobby groups.
Would you say
nobody can do anything about it?
Would you say that the 8th Senate has become authoritarian in its handling of issues that does not allow for dissent or opposing views? Of course, we do understand.
I believe to the extent that that is what we witness, I would say yes.
You have not clearly condemned what happened on the floor of the Senate yesterday. Of course, you do say Omo-Agege has the right to express himself, but are there limits to this right?
I said it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that we went through what we did yesterday. We experienced what we did yesterday, and I don't believe in crying over spilled milk.
What does that mean? You have not really. Yes. Please clarify. Clarify.
He doesn't want to apologize.
What we are saying.
Unless you want to chew the words I put into my mouth before I satisfy you, that's the much I can to respond to your question.
But are you bothered about how the international community will view Nigeria and its democracy, especially the legislature?
I'm extremely bothered. I am bothered, and I am bothered with the situation that gave birth to the experience we had also.
All right, what do you have to tell us about the rumor that pro-Buhari supporters in the Senate were being offered or would be offered $50,000 to kill that particular bill?
That is very funny. That's very funny and unfortunate. Wow. These are the kind of, ideas that are flown around that go a long way in offending people. I have respect for the Fourth Estate. Tremendous respect. I happened at one time in my life to be a member of the Fourth Estate. I do know this particular television station and quite a number that I know in Nigeria. They try to give the best, based on the experiences. They try to deal with the tenets of journalism and what have you. You see, to discuss this is just to help to promote rumor peddling. If anything, we had at some point, because when this thing started in the Senate, when this bill thing started, immediately the president vetoed it. The Senate started, the leadership and members who were pro the bill started having meetings to see how best they will, turn off the president's Senate to see how they can overturn the president's Senate, the president's veto. And they had a series of meetings. We know about these meetings. And if there is anybody who has money to flat around, it is them. We know them. We know how they operate. We know who supports them. We know how they get the money they get. They did. And then immediately this thing went viral in the Senate. They were smart because the institution of Senate is in their hands. They were smart to set up a committee, to refer to the ethics committee to investigate. We are still to hear, about, the outcome of the committee's work. So to come now and say, if anybody who knows President Muhammadu Buhari, to even entertain the idea that money will come out of government with him as leader to be shared by people who support, his group, or who are like the lobby group for the
well,
government.
many Nigerians, Senator Abdullahi, before we move on to our other guests, Senator Abdullahi, many Nigerians will be wondering exactly what is the basis of your pro-Buhari stance?
Look, I said a while ago, my dear, that in every parliamentary setting, you have lobby. Lobby is a recognized method of getting what you want passed through. The lobby can take place between members of parliament. It can take place between the members of the public who have certain interests on certain issues that are being discussed or are to be discussed by the Senate or by the parliament. And they come to try to promote the interests that they believe will serve, will serve them. And because we started first as members of the public, before we became elected senators, we hold opinions. And we are entitled to interpret anything that comes before us. And in the course of that interpretation, if we have got a position we want to canvass, we can do it between and amongst ourselves. Okay. All right? And to say that you cannot do it, because to do so now becomes a crime in the eyes of the Nigerian Senate, that would be unfortunate. But I do know that the rights, the inherent rights that I enjoy, that I have from the Nigerian Constitution, cannot be taken from me or from any member of the Senate for that matter.
Okay,
Jamil, we are entitled to organize ourselves legally to promote any cause that we believe is right.
Freedom of association. Jamil, let's come to you now. What do you think this speaks of Nigeria's democracy, which is about 19 years old now, the latest democracy we are enjoying? Do you see it as politics of personal interest or not?
Well, you're absolutely right. It appears to be politics of personal interest. And what we are seeing right now, though we know that Nigeria's democracy is growing, those that we try and exemplify, the UK and America have been existing for a long period of time. But when we see situations like this, whereby people with personal interest, call them pro-Buhari groups or not, just like the distinguished senator right now, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, could not actually expressly condemn the act in clear terms, you begin to wonder what is actually going on in our country. It's an issue of leadership, whereby the people in authority have to stand united and say, you know what, we don't want to see this kind of things happen. You are elected as a senator or as a governor or as a president, not to represent your own political or personal interest, but to represent the interest of the people. And I'm sure that many Nigerians, over 180 million, will not be impressed about what happened. We see this not just being an outright disregard to the rules of law, because Section 17, subsection 2 of the Senate Standing Order, as amended 2015, says that no one can just walk into the Senate without being invited. That was first violated. And Senator Omo-Agege, that was actually suspended, also, we insisted he wanted to be there, and when he came, chaos occurred. So we have to look at this holistically and say that personal interest needs to be put aside. Those people who call themselves pro-Buharis have to actually not do bad to the brand called Buhari. They have to start doing good, because when we see someone who is a pro-Buharist coming into the Senate and causing so much confusion with those standing next to him, we see a senator who cannot outrightly condemn that. We see a governor who says that, who went to bulldoze a building in Kaduna, all in the name of differentiation. And these are all pro-Buharis. For the brand Buhari, we have to actually guard it. We have to see that the president comes out and dissociates himself from all this kind of acts carried out quote and unquote in his name. We need a democracy that will be people-centered, not personality-driven. We need a democracy whereby Nigerians can begin to see the dividends of that democracy, and people will not feel threatened because of their political inclinations. In the UK, there are different parties. In the America, there are different parties. We should have different parties who can come out and stand and say, you know what, we represent the people, not our own personal interest.
All right, Jermaine Sanwo-Olu, thank you very much for joining us. Always look forward to your contribution on the show. Let's bring it back to the studio. Dr. Danekere, some people believe that what happened on the floor of the Senate and the incidents before that portend political tensions for 2019 as we inch closer to 2019. What do you think about this? What should we expect from now on?
Well, thank you. I want to think that Nigerians know better. Yeah, what is happening is what you can describe as selfish interest, whether it is Omo-Agege, whether it's Omo-Bariga or whatever. You see, we will not want to support. You know, yeah, but it could be Omo-Mushe, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we must operate in line with laws. Omo-Agege is not the strongest man in his constituency or senatorial district, but because of the authority of law, that, you know, brought about his election, he's represented the people. Now, when you say you are pro-Buhari, by virtue of that, you now describe others as anti-Buhari, you have not even helped the country in any way. Because the issue of
according to Shehu Sani, they are sycophants.
Indeed, they are. Well, El-Rufai is a bloody sycophant. That one is clear. Because he's a sycophant.
But he's not a lawmaker, so you're not even supposed to mention him.
He's a sycophant. You see, get the language. I've not insulted him. I've only said that he's a psychopath because you have shown it by the acts of destroying people's houses. But that's not the issue. The issue is that the question of the sequence of election that is bringing about all of this is not tied to. Buhari is not an immortal human being. He has just one more tenure entitlement, assuming he's elected. So after Buhari, what happens? So this is something that will be there whether Buhari or no Buhari. So the idea of limiting it to a Buhari is what the problem really is. That is why I call them psychopaths. Because we need to look at it, how does it benefit the public? How does it benefit the country? And from Senator Shehu Sani's analysis, there was a philosophical background to it that we have observed over time. That the moment you start with this level of election, there is a trend that people want to go this way. But we want people to take decisions on each election as it is, and especially
based on their convictions.
Yes, and based on performances, based on character. They have not defeated that argument. So the question of trying to whip sentiments over, oh, these people are against, the bill is targeted as social person, that is what I see as sycophancy. We must be able to reason above, the narrow confines and see the totality of the interest that is being represented here.
All right, because of time, let me quickly get your opinion too. Really, in law, there is judicial precedence. So what are you afraid of, really, going ahead to 2019 as we're inching closer to it, that if this is not addressed and nipped in the bud, something even worse could happen?
Well, societies cannot be devoid of dramatic occurrences like this, and my take is that laws are there to regulate order in the society. So if there are people that are violating law, take them to investigate and take them to court. But the most important, the issues here are pro-Buhari or pro-Senate. I think our senators should be pro-people. That is the most important thing. They should focus on,
as a whole,
yes, they should just focus on laws that will impact the lives of an average Nigerian, because ultimately, all the drama in the Senate, I can tell Nigerians are not interested.
But are you bothered what Jermaine Sanwo-Olu just mentioned there? That it seems that all the people who call themselves pro-Buhari, the fruit coming out of their actions leaves a lot to be desired. What is giving rise to that?
Well, I do not know. I think we must encourage them that if your president does what is right, give him a clap offering, and if he also does what is not good, be courageous enough to also speak out. And sycophancy is one thing that has actually destroyed our system of governance. That when people are close to the corridors of power, they're always scared for their security or probably for the benefit they are getting. They fail to look at the powers that be and tell them the honest truth. If the government is not performing, let us tell the government, you are not performing. That's the honest, that is the only service that we can do to our government.
Senator Abdullahi, let me come to you now. One of our talk heads just said that lawmakers should be pro-people and not pro-Buhari on one side or pro-Senate on the other. And as a senator, you were voted by your constituents to represent their interest in the Senate. Would you say that that is what the lawmakers are doing by having so many divisions, so many different groups?
In principle, I will agree with that assertion. But let us be very careful here. You see, we have paper tigers, we have armchair politicians, and we have television studio politicians. Okay? It is easy to come, get out there, get invited for a program, and condemn everything that a senator of a House of Reps is doing or a governor is doing. You know, it's a little deeper than that. And we do know people who nurse something bordering on hatred, who have got their personal axes to grind against some individuals, and who come to the kind of public purview to try to destroy the image of people. The fourth essence of the realm have a duty to draw a line somewhere. Having said that, I would to agree totally that every senator, every member of the House, governor, anybody occupying public office should always have behind his mind the concept of service, and that service is all about the people. All right? But the fact of the matter also that cannot be lost to us is the fact that a governor, a senator, a president was elected by people. All right? And that these people who elected him, form opinions on what they are doing or not doing. All right? And you cannot take away the fundamental duty they have. I'm part of government. It will be ridiculous anywhere in the world, any democracy, quote any democracy you want, that you are part of. The Senate is only a third arm of one government. We are part and parcel of government. All right? So if a senator comes in here and starts pointing accusing fingers at government, he is invariably accusing fingers at himself or themselves. All right? People don't seem to appreciate this. People seem to have a kind of line, oh, there's absolute division, you know, of the arms of government. There is no complete 100%, you know, division between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. On paper, it may be so, but whether you take it or you leave it, the fact of the matter is we belong to one government, and the president is the chief executive officer of the country, operating through these three arms of government. We do understand that.
Let me put this in very quickly.
Comes out of some,
because we have to wrap. We have to wrap any moment from now. You say that the issues go deeper than what an armchair analyst would understand or the ordinary Nigerian on the street. Are you saying there's something about power, politics, as it is played in the corridors of power or right in the hallowed chambers or in the office of the president that is different from what the ordinary Nigerian understands? Help us to understand it.
If to take it on that angle is to misrepresent what I've said.
Okay.
What I said is this: none of us is perfect. I am not saying that everything we do has been to the 100% satisfaction of every Nigerian, male or female. Okay? But the fact of the matter is, governance is experimentation. You take one problem, you solve the much you can, and move on. All right? And there's...
Oh, it seems we lost connection with Senator Shehu Abdullahi Adamu, rather. He represents Nasarawa West. Thank you very much for your analysis on the show. And this is where we will thank you, gentlemen, as well. Thank you so much for your time on the show. Dr. Danekere of the University of Lagos, and of course, Akweda Bass, lawyer and political analyst.
Thank you
very much for coming.
Thank you.